Congrats, Eve, at least, that's what it looks like on the surface. You've got Tomas by your side now. And everyone's whispering he's just like Ted. But here's the real question. If Tomas truly is Ted's reflection, then is this a win for you, or the start of another downfall? Because when history repeats itself, it rarely ends the way you expect. Ava's journey up until this point has been a storm of betrayals, shifting loyalties, and battles that have tested every ounce of her strength. Episode 140 opens with her standing tall, almost triumphant, as if the weight of the past finally loosened its grip. The way she carries herself, the way she speaks, it feels like she's convinced herself that she has finally achieved a breakthrough. To the outside world, it looks like a win. The chessboard of alliances seems tilted in her favor, and for the first time in a long while, she isn't simply reacting, she's directing the moves. But what makes this moment fascinating is that Ava's victory doesn't come from brute strength or a dramatic take. Instead, it's rooted in something more personal. Her choice to align with Tomas. That decision sends a signal to everyone watching, friends, enemies, and even neutral players, that she is ready to step into a new phase of power. Yet, even as the celebration begins to simmer around her, there's an unshakable unease. People aren't whispering about Ava's win alone. They're whispering about Tomas. They're whispering about the way he reminds them of Ted. Ted's name carries weight. He's not just a figure from Ava's past. He's a shadow that has shaped the entire story. His ruthlessness, his charm, his ability to play both sides, these traits made him dangerous, and they made him unforgettable. Now, Tomas is stepping into the spotlight, and it's impossible to ignore how closely his manner mirrors Ted's. The smirk that plays across his face when he thinks no one is watching, the way he tilts the conversation in his favor without raising his voice, the subtle calculation in his choices, all of these echo the same patterns that once brought Eva to her knees. This is where the brilliance of the writing lies. By giving Eva a victory that feels earned but fragile, the story asks the audience to look closer. Is she truly rising above, or has she unknowingly walked into the same trap that once held her captive? The illusion of success is intoxicating, but illusions have a way of shattering. As we watch Eva bask in the glow of her supposed triumph, every subtle detail about Tomas becomes magnified. His presence doesn't just support her, it overshadows her. And that is the seed of doubt the episode plants early on. Eva herself senses this, though she doesn't admit it outright. There's a flicker in her eyes when Tomas leans in too close. A pause in her voice when she's reminded of something Ted once said. A hesitation in the way she responds to his grand gestures. The audience sees it even if she tries to ignore it. Her strength in this episode feels real, but it's also brittle. Like glass polished to perfection, but one touch away from breaking. And this brings us to the heart of the first act. The question of what it really means to win. If Eva has secured Tomas, but Tomas is Ted reborn in a new form, then has she truly escaped the cycle of betrayal? Or has she tied herself to it once again? Episode 140 doesn't hand out easy answers. Instead, it lures us in with the spectacle of victory, while quietly reminding us that the most dangerous threats often hide in the people we trust most. Tomas doesn't just walk into the story as a supporting character. He arrives like a mirror that forces everyone, especially Eva, to confront the past she thought she had outgrown. From the moment he enters a scene, it's impossible to ignore the resemblance to Ted. Not in the obvious way, not a copy-paste version, but in the subtler details that creep up on you the longer you watch him. His words carry the same rhythm Ted used when he wanted to win someone's trust. His silences are just as loaded, just as sharp, as if silence itself were a weapon he knows how to wield. And it's in those silences that even the audience start to wonder, is Tomas really his own man? Or is he Ted's spirit wrapped in a new disguise? Ted was known for building worlds where he could play king, pulling people into his orbit and making them believe they needed him. He thrived on control, but he never showed his hand too early. Tomas mirrors this. He never outright demands loyalty, but his charisma pulls people in like a tide. Even when he doesn't ask for it, others begin to orbit around him. It's the same gravitational pull Ted once used to dominate every room he entered. The difference? Tomas seems smoother. If Ted's charm was like fire, bright, consuming, impossible to ignore, Tomas is like water, quiet, adaptable, but just as capable of drowning anyone who underestimates him. This subtlety is what makes him so dangerous. Where Ted used grand moves to stamp his authority, Tomas prefers quiet influence. He lets others believe they are making choices when, in truth, he has been guiding them all along. Episode 140 shows this beautifully in the way Tomas interacts with Eva. He doesn't tell her what to do. Instead, He frames his words so she begins to think the ideas are hers. That's not coincidence, that's strategy. And while Eva may think she's finally steering her own story, the audience can see Tomas gently pulling at the wheel. Now, the important question: does this mean Tomas is nothing more than a clone of Ted? Not entirely. There are differences, and they matter. Ted carried his ambition like a sword, ready to cut down anyone in his path. His hunger was obvious. Tomas, on the other hand, hides his ambition under layers of calmness. He doesn't want to look like a fighter. He wants to look like a friend. That disarming quality makes him even more unsettling because enemies are easy to identify. But friends who are really enemies in disguise, they are the ones who cause the deepest scars. Eva, whether she admits it or not, sees this duality. When she looks at Tomas, she's reminded of the pain Ted caused, but she's also drawn to the hope that Tomas could be different. It's this tug-of-war that drives the episode's tension. Every smile he gives her feels like a test. Is this comfort, or is it manipulation? Every decision she makes alongside him feels like walking a thin rope between freedom and disaster. And that rope grows thinner the more Tomas shows shades of Ted's legacy. The storytelling becomes even sharper when you notice how others around Eva respond. Side characters who once dealt with Ted seem cautious when dealing with Tomas. They don't always say it aloud, but their eyes reveal their unease. They've seen this pattern before, and they know how it ends. Some are even brave enough to warn Eva, but Eva, tasting her first true victory in a long time, refuses to listen. That refusal is exactly what gives Tomas room to move just like Ted once did. And this is where the brilliance of episode 140 lies. It doesn't tell us outright whether Tomas is Ted's shadow or his evolution. Instead, it lets the audience wrestle with the similarities and differences. If Tomas is simply repeating history, then Eva is doomed to fall into the same trap. But if he is an evolution, a smarter, quieter, more controlled version of Ted, then Eva's battle isn't just against her past. It's against something far more dangerous, the future version of the very demon she thought she had conquered by the end of this section of the story. One thing is clear: Tomas is not simply a background player. He is the question mark hanging over Eva's supposed victory. Is he the proof that people never change, only recycle themselves in new forms? Or is he the warning that the past was only the beginning, and the real challenge is just starting? The comparison to Ted is not just a callback, it's a spotlight on Eva's deepest fear, that she might be celebrating while standing at the edge of the same cliff, waiting to fall again. Victory is a strange thing. Sometimes it shines so brightly that you can't see the shadows hiding behind it. For Eva, episode 140 paints a picture of triumph. She stands at the center of Whispers, the one who managed to turn the game in her favor after being cornered so many times before. On the surface, it feels like her moment, but beneath that surface, there's a deeper question brewing. Is this truly a win? Or has she stepped into a carefully crafted illusion? The brilliance of this episode lies in how it explores the idea of winning without ever giving a solid answer. For Eva, winning isn't just about power, it's about survival, about breaking free from the cycle Ted created. But when Tomas enters the picture, so much of that clarity begins to blur. Yes, Eva has taken control. Yes, she's no longer being dictated to. And yes, she looks stronger, more confident than she has in a long time. But the subtle presence of Tomas changes the entire meaning of victory. If he is cut from the same cloth as Ted, then Eva hasn't won anything. She's only traded one prison for another. The episode carefully plants this paradox in almost every interaction. Tomas praises her decisions, but his words sound rehearsed, like a script meant to reassure her while quietly binding her closer to him. He makes sacrifices that seem noble, but each one places him deeper in her inner circle, where his influence grows stronger. The more Eva celebrates her freedom, the more Tomas becomes entwined in it, until it's hard to tell whether her success belongs to her or to him. This tension creates a haunting idea. Eva may not have won at all. She may only believe she has, and belief can be the most dangerous trick of all. The audience feels this trap forming because the show lingers on the small details. The way Tomas watches her with eyes that are kind but calculating. The way others hesitate to congratulate her, as though they sense something off. The way Eva herself hesitates when the celebrations grow too loud, as if a quiet voice in her mind whispers, "This isn't real." Those details build the sense that her victory is fragile, possibly even false. It is the classic storytelling trick: give the hero what they think they want, only to reveal that the prize may come at an even higher cost. And this is where the question of What it means to win takes center stage. To truly win, Eva would need not only to rise above Ted's shadow but also to break the pattern completely. Yet with Tomas by her side, that pattern seems to be repeating in subtle, unshakable ways. She believes she has won because she holds the pieces in her hand. But if Tomas is secretly controlling the game board, then her victory is nothing more than an illusion of control. That's the tragedy hidden in the episode's subtext. The winner may not be Eva at all, it may be Tomas, using her celebration as the perfect cover for his rise. There's also an emotional layer here. Eva wants to win so badly, not just for herself but for the people who followed her. For those who were broken by Ted's actions, for her own sense of justice. She needs to believe this moment matters, and in that need lies her weakness. People who crave victory often blind themselves to the cost. And Eva's desperation to feel free may be the very thing keeping her trapped. If she questions the win too early, the illusion breaks. If she questions too late, it destroys her. That's the knife's edge the episode keeps her balanced on. By the end of this part of the story, Eva's win feels less like a clear achievement and more like a question mark wrapped in confetti. The cheers are real, but so is the unease. She smiles, but behind the smile is the weight of uncertainty. The episode doesn't ask us to celebrate with her, it asks us to watch her carefully, to see whether this victory is genuine or whether it's the first step into a new trap. And that's what makes it so powerful. It reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous defeats don't come when you lose. They come when you think you've already won. Episode 140 isn't just another chapter in Eva's personal journey. It's a turning point, a hinge in the door that separates everything that came before from everything that lies ahead. What makes Beyond the Gates stand out as a series is how it constantly layers meaning. No single episode is only about one character or one decision. Each victory, each betrayal, each whispered conversation ripples across the entire season. And Eva's win with Tomas is no exception. It feels personal, but it carries the weight of the whole arc resting behind it. To understand why this moment matters so much, we need to step back and look at the season as a whole. From the very first episode, Season 1 has been about cycles. Cycles of trust and betrayal. Cycles of control and resistance. Cycles of people trying to break free only to find themselves caught in a new web. Ted was the original architect of that cycle, setting in motion conflicts that still echo even after he's no longer standing in the spotlight. Tomas, stepping into Ted's shoes or, at least being compared to him, signals that the cycle hasn't ended. Instead, it may have evolved. The shadow of Ted still hangs over everyone, not because he's present, but because his influence shaped the very structure of the game. They're all playing. This raises an unsettling truth. Maybe Eva's story isn't about defeating Ted or escaping his legacy. Maybe it's about proving whether it's even possible to break free from a system that was built in his image. If Tomas is the new face of that system, then Eva's so-called victory is actually the first step into a bigger test. The gates she thinks she has passed through may only be the outer walls of a labyrinth, with even more dangerous corridors waiting ahead. Episode 140 gives us subtle reminders of this larger scope. Background characters speak in hushed tones about power shifts that go beyond Eva's immediate circle. Symbols and visual cues, mirrors, doors, shadows appear again and again, hinting at the season's broader themes of reflection, repetition, and hidden truths. Even the pacing of the episode feels like preparation, as though the story is quietly loading a spring that will snap in the episodes to come. Nothing about this victory feels final. Everything about it feels like a setup. And this is where fan theories begin to thrive. Some argue that Tomas is not just like Ted, but actually worse, an upgraded version who has learned from Ted's mistakes. Others believe Tomas may not be a villain at all, but rather a test of Eva's growth, a chance for her to prove that she can resist repeating old patterns. Still, others wonder if Eva herself is being reshaped by this cycle, becoming more like Ted in ways she doesn't even realize. After all, power changes people, and her win might be the first sign that she is stepping into the very role she once fought against. The beauty of episode 140 is that it refuses to resolve these questions. Instead, it positions the season to dive deeper into them. It leaves the audience arguing, speculating, and questioning every choice Eva makes from here on out. Is Tomas her partner or her downfall? Is her win real or manufactured? Is the cycle unbreakable, or is she the one who will finally shatter it? These aren't just questions for Eva, they're the central mysteries that keep the season alive. And then there's the title itself, Beyond the Gates. The phrase suggests thresholds, transitions, moving past barriers into unknown territory. Episode 140 lives up to that title by reminding us that each gate, Eva passes isn't the end, it's the beginning of another layer of the story. Just as she steps forward, thinking she has crossed into freedom, we realize she may only be standing at the edge of something bigger, darker, and far more dangerous. The gates are endless, and each one demands a price. So when fans ask, did Eva really win? The answer may not matter in the way we think. Winning and losing are small measures compared to what this season is building toward. What matters is whether Eva can rewrite the cycle itself. Whether she can move, not just past Ted or Tomas, but past the entire shadow they represent. That is the true challenge. That is the real game. And that is why episode 140 doesn't give us resolution. It gives us tension. It leaves us perched at the edge of possibility, staring into the next gate, waiting to see if Eva has the strength to step through it, without becoming the very thing she fears. By the time the credits roll, one thing is certain. Eva's story is no longer just about survival. It's about legacy, about rewriting rules that were written long before her. And as the whispers grow louder, as Tomas smiles his knowing smile, as shadows stretch long across the gates, we realize the most haunting truth of all: sometimes winning is just another name for walking into the next battle.